Well, for many people, and this is not just for people who've been through menopause, but many people at various stages of life and for various reasons suffer with hot flashes. It's an uncomfortable condition. It can really affect your day-to-day life. And we found something really interesting at Real Life we'd like to chat with you about. And Carolyn Wiskin joins me today, a pharmacist and a registered menopause practitioner.
Yes.
And we have a wonderful thing to talk about today.
We do. I'll tell you, many women come to me looking for options in terms of treating their hot flashes. For some, hot flashes are coming as often as every hour. So you can imagine it's not just debilitating in your daytime quality of life, but also for sleep. And those that lose sleep due to hot flashes, or what we actually refer to as night sweats, their functioning the next day is dramatically impaired. In fact, we know that stress level increases, ability to concentrate and focus, risk factors for cardiovascular disease, all increase significantly if you don't have at least that 7 to 8 hours of sleep. So that's really important. So when women come looking for options, there are just several. So I'm trying to put into place for them what makes the most sense.
Now, for people perhaps that haven't gotten to the stage yet, I can speak to it. I'm going to let you speak to it. For people who've never experienced it, when we're talking about a hot flash, what is experienced for a person who's going through a hot flash?
So basically, the body temperature heats up by a few degrees. It's very significant. So the core body temperature, and we do find that people who have a little excess weight, actually it's even harder for them because they retain the heat longer. They can't expend it. So for some, it comes on almost from the bottom up. They can feel a wave of heat rising and coming right to their face. Others is just a facial flushing. Some it's more in the neck. So people describe it differently, but it can last for some a minute. Others it can go on for 5 to 10 minutes, depending on how long it takes for the body to cool down. There's some people who just feel warmth or heat. Others who actually have to completely change their clothing.
Yes, and in the nighttime situation, it's difficult because you're under covers usually, and it's a real.
Well, you hear the covers are on, the covers are off. I turn the heat on, I turn it off. I put on the air conditioning. My spouse is freezing.
And you know what? But for most people that I've talked to, is that of all things, winter is more difficult because in the summer, at least you're in the lighter clothing. In the winter, you're cold to begin with.
That's right.
Hot flash, you're wearing 3 layers of clothing. It's very difficult.
So then you're sweating, and then sometimes you're cold after. So there's, and for people at work, it can be a very embarrassing situation where they're trying to focus on a meeting, something's happening, and now they have to dismiss themselves. And some people actually brought a change of clothes with them. So although you can just pass it off of this is a transitional thing, it can happen in a woman's life, but it could go on for years.
And now we are referring to it in terms of menopause or perimenopause. However, it's not just women who are affected sometimes by hot flashes. Men can experience
this too.
Too.
I mean, especially men who have had prostate cancer, they're actually on medications that will affect hormone levels, and that in turn will create hot flashes in them. So the neat thing about this product, which is called Hot Flash Eliminator.
Okay, so let's address that a little bit. What we have here.
So this particular product, the neat thing about it is that it does not affect hormone levels. So it helps the body regulate temperature and lessen the incidence of hot flashes if you use it preventatively, or actually if you even have a hot flash, it will stop it in its tracks. The thing that we look at generally for controlling hot flashes is, do we want to use a hormone, which some women end up doing, they have very low levels and benefit from. Others don't fit that risk profile. Maybe it's not something they want to do.
Because there can be a risk.
Absolutely.
We've all heard about this in the news from time to time, and there are risks, and there's a lot to consider when you're doing something to alter something as critical as hormone levels.
Absolutely. So, I mean, we do know from studies like the WHI, the Women's Health Initiative, that the longer you're on hormones, we do increase risk, certainly of stroke, of cardiovascular disease. As women age, or when they're over 65, there's an increased risk of Alzheimer's and dementia when on estrogen, which we didn't think would be the case at all. So at all phases through your life, there's going to be risk to benefit, things you have to consider. So at some point, hormones may be the right choice for some women and can be very helpful, but they have to understand those risks. You have other people with a breast cancer history themselves or family history, and others that just say, you know what, I want to enter into this more gradually. So depending on the level of symptoms they're experiencing, which there can be many going through this menopause transition, if hot flashes or night sweats are the primary one, then they might want to say, well, why don't I just address that to start and see what I can do to help with that. So they can use herbal products, which mimic hormones. This does not do that. This is something that I would consider more my first step, almost entry phase into treatment for hot flashes.
Okay, so let's just say I decided I'm going to try this.
Yes.
what am I doing when I take this bottle home?
Okay, so this product, as I said, it's called Hot Flash Eliminator, so it's exactly what it's doing is the name of the product. It's actually made from flower essences. Some people have heard of what we call the Bach flower remedies or Bach flower family. So you basically are taking a group of 4 different flowers. They're Australian bush plants, actually. They dry the flowers, then they put distilled water over it, so they get a concentrated solution of it. And then from that, it's diluted several times. So you just have the essence of the flower. And then on top of that, Reiki energy is infused to this to create a good flow of energy through the system, because imbalance can create disruption and worsen things like hot flashes. So that is infused into each bottle. So you're taking this mixture, putting 4 to 6 drops, usually 6 drops under the tongue, letting that absorb into your system. And you'll do that, what I suggest is to do it preventatively for the first week. So do it 3 times a day. If you have an additional hot flash, use it again. There's no limit to the frequency. You have it with you, have it beside your bed. If in the middle of the night you have a hot flash, you use it again. If you do that regularly for a week as a prevention, the following week, the severity of any hot flash you may have, the frequency of hot flashes should be dramatically reduced. If not, the company is actually willing to give you your money back. I have never heard from any company, whether it's herbal, whatever, that guarantee, which is pretty amazing. Now, there are some people, and it's been reported up to, 85 to 90% that could just use it the first time and it worked. But I think in order to really establish it and give it the best chance of working, that it is good to use a preventative dose for that first week, because you don't want to have them, right? You're trying to prevent them from coming rather than using it every time you've got one.
And there's always a retraining in the body. Whenever you're doing anything, whether it's working out or diet or whether it's taking a supplement of some kind, there's always a retraining phase.
Yes, so this sort of gets the body used to that, absolutely. So if you do it the first week and then you happen to need it the second week because one comes up, you're hopefully going to have it cut in its tracks and you won't have as many of them. Now, some people will still continue to do even a morning night, or let's say night sweats were your worst, they'll do a preventative nighttime dose and then just have it on hand should they need it. So it's going to be individual. I do have some people who want to stay on the lowest dose of a hormone as possible. And for them, they've got to a point where they increase those hormones a little more, they might get some breast swelling, tenderness, feel uncomfortable about that, and we add a product like this in. So what that's done is allow them to use the lowest dose of their prescription drug and get better control. Absolutely. So there's lots of options, and we've had men use it as well, as you mentioned. So,
and I have to say, it does speak to the product. Yourself is actually in favor.
Absolutely. I mean, I think that the best thing for people generally, women, is to have choice. You have to know what your options are. And so when people come to see me as a menopause practitioner, a lot of what I'm doing is trying to weigh those risks and benefits. So we start off with, here's something very simple. If these are your issues, if you have more complicated symptoms going through that transition, we can move to other products, we can move to hormones, but bearing in mind what those benefits are throughout. So I just think in our whole sort of armamentarium of things we can use to control symptoms of hormone imbalance through perimenopause and menopause, that this is an excellent tool to have.
Excellent. Well, this is quite exciting. Definitely, I know a lot of viewers are going to want to check it out. How can we learn more? Where can we go to find out more?
Well, in terms of the product itself, pharmacies across Canada will be starting to carry the product. It's been around for about 4 years now, and certainly longer that in development to get this exact right combination of flower essences. Online, if people want to look up Hot Flash Eliminator, just Google it. There will be a website there that they can access information and find out distributors, through that 1-800 number if their local pharmacy doesn't carry it. But
well, I think a lot of people are going to be excited to learn more, to read more, and to perhaps even get their hands on some of this, because it is something a lot of us cope with.
Absolutely. And the neat thing, I will say right now, when you do get one, what they have been supplying to us is complimentary CDs on relaxation techniques, helping people with sleep. It's not for the car. It's strictly a CD for helping you relax, because part of this whole thing is the stress and anticipation. Am I going to have a hot flash? I'm not going to sleep well tonight. So if we can get people as well doing some of these relaxation techniques, it can be helpful. So that's, right now, it's a bonus that you get with the product. So yeah, I think it's very helpful.
We'll send our viewers to check that out. And I do appreciate you coming in to visit us today.
No problem.
Always great to learn about an exciting new product.
It is, yeah.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
And we'll have more on Real Life coming up.